here. We're going to do it without the music. So obviously, folks, before we talk about the three bad teams in the National Football League, and before we talk about a little fantasy, we're going to talk about probably the greatest, one of the greatest owners in the history of football, in Al Davis. The NFL lost a good man. I mean, I know a lot of people out here have their opinions about Al Davis, and a lot of people have said a lot of bad things about Al Davis over the time. But when you step back and look at the things the man accomplished as an owner, as a scout, as a coach, as a commissioner of a league, I mean, he was a pioneer in every sense of the word. I mean, he was the first owner to recruit at the black colleges. He was the first to hire an African American coach, a Latino coach, a woman CEO to run an NFL team. I mean, he was the first to try to entice the NFL players at that time period when the NFL players were not trying to play in the AFL. He was the guy who was trying to get those guys to come play in his league. He's known for a lot of things. Of course, he brought in John Madden. He's opened the door for people like John Gruden and Mike Shanahan. I mean, how about the people he has drafted over the years? I mean, taking a chance on Bo Jackson when Bo had made his intentions pretty clear that he wanted to play baseball. I mean, this guy put a lot of people in a lot of places today, and he's one of the great ones, and he'll be missed. And we'll take our first call. 89.7 KLS FM. This is Richard. How can I help you?
Richard, David.
What's going on, David?
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing all right. A touch under the weather. Hopefully, you can understand what I'm saying.
Well, you sound as clear and clean as a whistle.
Excellent.
So, last week, fantasy picks were good except for our team. You have to learn a lesson. We don't pick our teams for certain things, but the Giants' defense was a sieve. And even though they got some sacks, but they couldn't stop Seattle. So what do you got for us this week?
Yeah, part of the problem with the Giants' defense is it comes with the Giants' offense. And when Giants' offense is coughing up balls like Victor Cruz unfortunately did, although I don't really put that on Cruz, but when the Seattle defense is scoring points and it counts against your defense, that's one of those things that's hard to predict. But there you go. For week 6, starting-wise,
Okay.
big fan of Tony Gonzalez and Michael Turner. The reason being, got Julio Jones officially out against Carolina. Now, Carolina is vulnerable against the run to begin with, so that's the Michael Turner part. Atlanta's going to play a lot of ball control. They're going to be running with Turner. They're going to do a lot of short, controlled passes to Gonzalez. And, with one less target to throw to in the red zone, I expect Gonzalez to catch his 5th touchdown of the season.
Well, Carolina's defense seems to also have problems with the pass, too, so it's a very, very good choice. Who do you think we should sit this week?
Don't like Reggie Wayne. Cincinnati is who they're going up against in Indianapolis, that is. They've been shutting down receivers all year, and especially number one. They've got a good young corner out there, and number one has just been doing awful. So you got Reggie Wayne, who, I like the guy, but he's an aging number one in with. Obviously, he doesn't have Payton there, as we all know. Got Curtis Painter, who, by the way, I actually do like as a pickup. I think that there's potential there. He already has some decent numbers. I don't think it's a fluke. He's been looking Garcon's way even more than any of the predecessors have. So you got a guy who normally throws to Garcon, as evidenced by the last 2 starts. And then again, you've got Cincy D. It all adds up to Reggie Wayne not having a good day.
And so the defense would you like to start this week?
I like the Packers. I like the Packers at home against basically an anemic St. Louis offense, which pains me to say because I've got Steven Jackson in one of my leagues, but it is what it is. Packers D has basically underperformed so far this year. You probably picked them early in the draft if you picked them. They've been okay. What happens is they've been going against a few power offenses like New Orleans, Atlanta, I believe I'm saying it, but Carolina, offenses that score a lot of points, and they've been scoring points against the Packers as well, those offenses. Against teams like Chicago and Denver, the Packers D scored in double digits this year. So what you have here is going against St. Louis, you don't have a power offense. You've got them, I believe it's a home game. They're going to score big against St. Louis at home, most definitely this week.
And you mentioned Curtis Painter, somebody that people should possibly pick up on the waiver wire or trade wire. Any other nuggets out there that people should look into?
Yeah, I got another name for you. And this is an interesting guy. It's David Nelson on Buffalo, wide receiver. He's got probably a 50-50 chance of being available in your league. That's the way he's generally been running in the bigger leagues. So it's obviously worth a look there. What's happened with Nelson is that he got off to a hot start. He was a name that popped up on your radar if you paid attention to free agents and stuff like that. But then he had Donald Jones come by and sort of wedge into his number 2 receiving status. And then, since they're both young guys, you really didn't know which one was going to get the number 2 role, Nelson or Jones, as a fantasy owner, and it became a tough situation to judge. But now Donald Jones is injured. Looks like he's out for at least a month. And with Stevie Johnson over there drawing basically the best defenders on defenses that they're facing, Nelson is really going to catch a lot of balls, and I think he's going to do good things with it. He's a talented receiver. If you haven't watched Buffalo play, try to find a way to get to your local sports bar or whatever and do it, because they're an exciting team to watch, especially on offense. And they spread the ball around. They like to throw it, and I think David Nelson is a great pickup if he's available.
Well, our poor Giants secondaries, you could have picked somebody else instead of tearing down our team there, buddy. But hopefully the Giants will outscore them in a shootout, and maybe Nelson will put up some big numbers. Any more nuggets you want to tell the folks before we go?
There's some fantasy rules and regulations, or rules I like to live by. I think I'm going to save them for next week, if you don't mind. I've started to sort of compile it in my head, a few do's and don'ts in my book, and maybe I'll give that to your listeners next time.
Well, we thank you for the call and enjoy AC.
All right, no problem.
I'll talk to you later.
Always a pleasure, Richard.
All right, David.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 89.7 KLAS FM. It's funny. He and I don't rehearse this, by the way. He basically texts me 10 minutes before I go on the air, and he says, I got some stuff for you. And I say, okay. And we get on, and we don't prepare questions. We just go with the flow, and I like it. He's pretty darn good at what he does with this fantasy stuff, and it's helped my fantasy teams, and I'm sure hopefully it's helping your teams all around.